O Stree Kal Aana.
It was a night like any other in the village of Vijaypur, nestled at the edge of a thick, dark forest. The moon hung low, casting pale light over the winding, dusty roads. The village had long since settled into its quiet rhythm, the hustle of daily life replaced by the chirping of crickets and the occasional rustling of leaves. Yet there was always a lingering tension after dark, an unspoken fear, one that crept into the bones of every man and woman who lived there. The legend of Stree was known by all, though few dared speak her name aloud after sunset. It was said that she roamed the streets at night, a beautiful woman wrapped in a flowing white sari, calling to men for help. They said her voice was haunting, gentle, almost pleading. But no man who answered her call had ever returned. Lalit, a young carpenter, had heard the stories all his life. He'd grown up with tales of Stree, listening to his elders warn of the danger she posed. Do not speak to her, they would say, do not help her. For she is no woman, but a spirit, a curse, and if you answer her call, you will never see the light of day again. But Lalit wasn't afraid. He believed in logic, in reason. He didn't think a story passed down through generations could hold any truth. And so, as he finished his day's work and made his way home that night, he laughed softly to himself, shaking his head at the old superstitions. The street light flickered as Lalit walked, his boots tapping against the cobblestones. The air was cooler than usual, a breeze stirring the hair on his neck. He was only a few minutes from home when he heard it, a soft, almost melodic voice drifting toward him from the shadows.
Excuse me, can you help me?
Lalit stopped. The voice was delicate, like the sound of wind chimes in the distance. It didn't sound threatening at all. He peered into the darkness, seeing nothing at first. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of a figure, a woman, dressed in a white sari, her back to him. Her hair was long, dark, and cascading over her shoulders, and her body swayed slightly with the wind. Something tugged at his chest, a curiosity stronger than fear. He stepped forward, clearing his throat. Are you lost? He asked, his voice steady. The woman turned, slowly, and when she looked at him, Lalit's heart skipped a beat. Her beauty was ethereal, almost unreal. Her eyes were large, wide, and filled with an aching sadness that stirred something deep within him. He found himself drawn to her, unable to look away.
Can you help me find my way home?
She asked again, her voice laced with something that felt almost desperate. Lalit hesitated, the stories of Stree flickering in his mind. He had heard them all, how she would lure men into the night and never let them return. But how could someone like her, so fragile and lost, be dangerous? With a steady breath, he nodded. Of course, I'll help you. As he took a step closer, the woman's face changed. Her expression, so soft and inviting just moments before, now twisted into something strange. Her lips curled into a smile, but it was not a smile of relief or gratitude. It was something darker, something hungry. Before Lalit could react, the air around him seemed to grow cold, the shadows thickening. He tried to step back, but his feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. The woman's figure began to distort, flickering like a candle flame in a gust of wind. Her face elongated, her eyes blackening until they were deep pools of nothingness. Lalit's heart raced. He turned to flee, but her voice stopped him.
You cannot run from me,
she whispered, her voice no longer soft, but a hollow echo that sent a chill through his spine.
I am the thing that follows you, the shadow that whispers your name. You cannot escape.
His pulse hammered in his ears as he looked back at her. She had changed, her sari was now tattered, her once beautiful face twisted with rage and sorrow. She was no longer the woman who had asked for help. She was Stree. Lalit forced his legs to move, tearing himself away from the creature that had once been so beautiful, but now was a nightmare. As he ran, he heard her laughter, a cruel, mocking sound that seemed to follow him, growing louder with each step. It was as though the darkness itself was closing in around him. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of running, Lalit stumbled into the safety of his home. His breath came in ragged gasps, and his hands shook uncontrollably. But as he closed the door behind him and locked it, he felt a strange presence, a weight in the air, like something was watching him. He peered out the window, expecting to see the woman, or rather, Stree. But there was nothing. The street was empty, bathed in the faint glow of the street lights. For a moment, Lalit thought it was over, that he had escaped. Then, just before he closed his eyes to sleep, he heard it, the faintest whisper, as if it were right next to his ear.
You can never leave me, Lilith.
The voice was hers. And though the night had fallen silent again, Lalit knew he had not escaped. Stree was a curse that would follow him forever, a shadow in the dark, the silent call that no man could outrun.